Welcome to the CFO Track Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Hunter, and every week I'll be bringing you stories from some of Australia's best and brightest CFOs and the lessons they learnt along the way. My goal for the podcast is to provide learning and development opportunities for those wanting to get to the level of the guests on this show, but they just didn't have the access to those lessons otherwise. Let's get into it. This week on the show, I'm joined by Sammy Michaels, the Finance SVP of Octopus Deploy, a market leader in continuous delivery software. Sammy started off his career in mining, but always wanted to get into tech, and it's a great example of continuing to work towards your goal career trajectory. He also gives brilliant insight to the value of community groups in learning and development. It's a fantastic episode, and I hope you enjoy it. So here we go. Sammy Michaels, welcome to the CFO Track Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. How's the week been?
You know what? I'm tired, but I'm good tired. It's been a week I've achieved stuff. Some weeks I feel like I wish I'd achieved more, but it's the good form of exhaustion.
What is the difference between a good tired and a bad tired? Like where's the point?
You know what? I wake up tired but excited about the day ahead, I think.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's that tiredness where your soul's a bit tired. Fortunately, I'm not there.
I think you're right. So I do get that every now and then, because Monday this week, I was struggling Monday morning, like, I just can't get into it. But the last couple of days, I might have felt a little bit tired, but you know what, we got a bit on today. Like, it's good. It's kind of energizing at the same time. So I can appreciate that for sure.
You know what? I've recently discovered I get a burst of energy early afternoon on a Friday, and I get that my inspiration then. And if you're on my team, I can imagine that's a nightmare, because I've suddenly got my ideas. I'm like, I've got some great ideas of things we should do. I know it's 4 o'clock on a Friday. Like, no.
Yeah, very good, very good. Well, I've given the listeners already a bit of an intro to yourself, but I can never do it justice. So it'd be good to hear it from you, who you are, what you're working on at the minute, that kind of thing.
Sure. So I lead the finance function. I lead finance, legal, IT, and compliance at Octopus Deploy.
Yep.
Software as a service company in the continuous delivery space.
Okay. Yep.
I started my career qualifying as a chartered accountant at PwC in the UK.
Sure.
Did a brief stint in Mongolia, where
we'll touch on that in a sec.
Their office. I moved to Australia. I met an Aussie gal, and there's lots of stories of UK guys meeting an Aussie gal and coming across.
Sure.
We moved to Australia, so spent a couple of years in Oz. I got an opportunity to work in Singapore for a few years.
Yeah, cool.
So we moved to Singapore, had a daughter, and then joined a tech company in Sydney, and I've never turned back from tech. I really love it.
Nice, very good. We'll get back to that in a bit, but where did it all start though? So why did you get into accounting? Was finance in the blood? Where did it happen?
I think probably finance, almost as literally as it can, probably was in the blood.
Okay.
My old man has been a CFO, I think, for the same company now for 40 years. But he's been a CFO for probably 50, 60 years, or leading finance. He's in his mid-80s.
CFO for 56 years?
For maybe 60 years. He's in his mid-80s now. He did quite well in his career.
Still working?
Quite early. He's still working.
That's incredible. What a soldier.
Yeah, what a soldier. Drives my mother up the wall. She's certainly looking for him to finish.
Yeah.
But he still works. He still enjoys working.
Yeah, cool. We should get him on the show at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, very good. Very good. So
I've been very outshined.
That's fun. And so what was it about that, though, that drew you into it? Did not have a choice, and it was just painted on the walls? How did it happen?
I think it definitely was a choice. It was just, I'm in some ways a carbon copy of my father.
Okay. Yeah.
We have kind of really similar skills, really similar gaps as well.
Yeah.
Both my parents were pretty senior in the organizations they ran.
Right.
And therefore dinner table conversation was all around business and finance.
Yeah.
And I grew up with those conversations when I was young. And so I found them interesting from a younger age, or I got used to them. And it was a path that had probably been written in the stars before I was even aware of it. And it's something I now enjoy. I enjoy being an accountant.
Yeah. Okay. So you knew pretty early on that was something that you wanted to do.
Yeah, I think I did. I don't know how much I knew that I knew, but it became really obvious to me. And one of the things that's different in the UK is if you want to be an accountant, actually your degree can be in history or French
Yeah.
or art,
Yeah. Chemistry.
and then
Yeah.
you can become an accountant afterwards. So it's quite rare to do an accounting degree, but I ended up doing maths and accounting, maths and finance as
Okay.
my degree anyway,
Sure.
when I really didn't need to. So
Yeah.
it was written in the stars.
Yeah. Nice. And then so did you went to PwC post uni?
Yeah, went to PwC post uni. I did their actually vacation program through
Okay.
uni.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I worked my summers at PwC. Then after I graduated, I got a position.
Yep.
Did the really miserable set of exams.
Yeah. Right. Fun.
Really grateful for everything I learned at PwC. I
Yep.
appreciate I had to do the exams, but it was not fun.
Yeah.
It was miserable.
So when did the trip to Mongolia happen? That was still with PwC?
Yeah, it was with PwC. They were setting up a business in Mongolia, and
Okay.
they were offering certain accountants the opportunity to go out there and be part of the founding team or
Yeah, okay.
help setting up and training the local Mongolian accountants.
Setting up a PwC office in Mongolia?
Exactly, yeah, PwC
Yeah, right.
office in Mongolia.
Yeah,
I think it was a joint venture with, I think PwC Russia at the time, or another
Right.
PwC office
Yeah, okay.
in the world. And it was wild. It was fun. It was exciting. It was my first taste of doing something a bit more entrepreneurial, because until then PwC is very much just kind of turning the.
Sure. Yeah. So did you speak the local language, or did you need to? How did that happen?
So the local language, I think it's Mongolian. Nobody really spoke English out there except the really educated.
Yeah.
So I walked around a lot with a translator, but it meant navigating just local culture was quite hard. So when I wanted to come to work each morning, there wasn't a public transport system and there wasn't a taxi system.
Yeah.
So I had to hitchhike each morning.
Yeah.
And it was
with
about
your translator, or just with your translator, or just you?
No, this was just me in the morning. So hitchhiking to work, it was, I don't know, in the middle of winter, so minus 30, minus 40 degrees.
Yeah.
And I had to negotiate with the person I was hitchhiking with how much I'd pay for it. Somehow we'd work this out in, neither of us speaking the other person's language. And then I'd get to the office and somehow have to claim this as an expense where clearly you don't get a receipt with hitchhiking.
Yeah. And so how did you do that though? And that was every day? That was every day?
Yeah, this was every day.
How long for?
From work.
How long for?
Ooh, I'd have done it for about 6 months overall.
So hitchhike every day in minus 10, minus 20 degrees. Down
the main street. As it got a bit warmer, I might have walked some days. So it was only about maybe one or 2 miles from my accommodation to the office. But it was just one of those things where you solve the problem.
You
just solve them. I'm trying to work out if I had a mobile phone at that point or a proper mobile phone. This was in 2008, 2009. So no tech to support me.
Sure. And I guess coming into that, when you solve a problem like that before you get into the work, the rest of the day must be a breeze. What do they call it? Eat the frog first. That you get that out of the way, and the whole rest of the day is fantastic.
And it was, everything about that. It was really great fun because there were always just new challenges, challenges I'll never have anywhere else. No challenge that I could ever be trained for.
Yeah.
And it was a real adventure to learn, solve some problems by yourself. And unfortunately, I had a great partner who was out there who was willing to explore and try new things to get a good result.
Yeah, cool. And then, so you came back to London afterwards?
Came back to London afterwards. I don't remember exactly how long, maybe a year or so. I'd met an Aussie gal who's now my wife.
Okay.
And so I decided to give it a go in Australia.
Sure.
What
markets were you working on, like client markets, that kind of thing?
So it's interesting. So I'd been doing energy markets all the time at PwC.
Okay. And in Mongolia?
Pardon?
In Mongolia too?
In Mongolia as well.
Yeah.
So Mongolia, the reason why companies want to go there is because of the mining.
Okay.
Huge amount of resources. And I want to say
right.
copper. I'm sure someone
Sure.
listening to this is going to correct me. I think it was copper.
Yeah.
And somehow I dug myself into a bit of a specialism. So in the UK, not many people are in energy and mining.
Okay.
Compared to Australia, where obviously that's, a big piece. And ends up becoming something of a specialism. And I always knew in my heart I wanted to go into tech.
Okay.
But I ended up just kind of getting more and more clients in that space, because once a partner knew that's what you'd done in your specialism, where you get more energy and mining clients. So even when I got to Australia, because I'd done energy and mining for the previous 5 years or so, and I'd been out to a lot of sites, places like Mongolia, there was some value to it. And so I continued that when I got to Oz.
Yep. Right. And so did you enjoy oil, gas, mining, energy, or did it just happen?
I did not enjoy it. It just was what it was. I enjoy accounting, I enjoy finance, I enjoy business.
Yep.
I didn't have a particular passion for it.
Sure.
But I've been quite ambitious through my career, and I've always very much focused on, I'm doing what I'm doing at the moment because I know this is the stepping stone for me in my career to get to the next step. And so I was happy if I didn't particularly think a customer was that interesting, or a client was that interesting, or a job was that interesting. I always saw it as, I do this well, I get another opportunity down the line, and that's going to be the one that works for me, and I can keep moving forward in my career.
Yeah, cool. See, you must have stayed for what, 6, 7, 8-ish years with PwC, so it's a decent enough stint. What was it that made you stay as long as you did, rather than the typical 3 to 3.5 years, 4 years, or whatever it is?
I think there are a mix of pieces. I think while there were lots of things at the time at PwC that I was like, I don't really want to be doing this, it is a great place to work. You have a lot of support, an amazing support structure, access to amazing people that perform really well. I generally had my eye looking at the market, but as I kept getting new opportunities, I wanted to keep improving, proceeding, and PwC offered that launching platform. At one point, I actually got an offer that I couldn't reject. One of my partners at PwC became the CFO of a mining organization out of Singapore, and offered me a role in Singapore to go help set up the finance function.
How long was that after being in Australia?
It would have been just under 2 years.
Okay. Was it a hard call, or the opportunity was too good not to?
The opportunity was too good not to miss. And I just got married. So the idea of going on an adventure, just me and my wife, to a brand new country. It's kind of one of those rare opportunities. We probably had a bit more spending money than we'd had in the past, and a new place to go and fly and see things. Thought, let's do something together as a couple, and it was a bit scary.
Yeah, so that was Anglo-American. That was when you...
Correct, that was Anglo-American.
Yeah, okay. So, and that was in Singapore. Had you been to Singapore before?
I'd been to... So, the year and a half before then, when we just got married, me and my wife were flying through, and we were standing in the humidity. So Singapore, 365 days a year, is between 27 and 33 degrees and 107% humidity. You basically swim to work. And I remember standing there and saying, this is just awful. I am never, ever, ever coming back here. And then it was in fact probably 12 months to the day. I remember this. We ended up moving there.
Yeah, right. Well, good job, and good pay packet will do that, I suppose.
It was quite exciting, and it was great. It was a real adventure. I would recommend Singapore to anyone.
I've only ever heard really, really good things. So maybe it's on the cards one day.
It was beautiful. It was really beautiful. What an adventure.
So that was your first role out of Big Four. How was that?
It was great. I learned a huge amount. I made so many mistakes. It was unbelievable. It was mistake after mistake, but each one of those was a really great learning platform for me.
What type of stuff? Sorry, go on.
I think so. one of the first mistakes is I kept on forgetting that this is a business that needs to be profitable. It's funny, working at a place like PwC, I started as an audit and assurance, and I had very much a tick box process, and I could tick my way through it, and I could achieve or overachieve because I understood the process and what the goals were. I forgot at Anglo American, it seems obvious that we're there to make money, and I was very much ticking through the processes, and no, this is the process, this is how you meant to do it. It says I read it in a book a long time ago, this is how it's written. But actually that didn't make sense in the corporate world. I had to really adjust my framework, the paradigm I operated in.
Yeah.
I'd come to the opinion at PwC that I was a good manager, and that I'd be a good manager. And I suddenly jumped into managing one or two accountants to managing a reasonably large team, 10 or 15.
Yeah, wow.
And I wasn't a good manager. And I didn't really understand kind of what was important to the team, what motivated them, and what drove them.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the clear examples for me was at PwC, everyone was ambitious.
Sure.
Basically, everyone wanted to be partner or get out. So anyone that was still there was on the road to partnership somehow, although they were moved on. And so to incentivize people, you gave them more work, bigger projects, glitzier projects.
Yeah.
And I immediately assumed, therefore, when I joined Anglo American, that everyone had the same philosophy. They just want to, be CFO or CEO.
Yeah.
But I then went and applied that, and I gave them, some projects and interesting activities and gave them opportunities to work long hours. That's not what they wanted. The team that I had out there, they wanted to get in at 9. They wanted a nice lunch break from 12 to 1.
Yeah.
They wanted to get out at 5. They wanted to be paid their pay packet.
Yep.
And they were really happy. They didn't want to be promoted. They wanted pay rises that just came as standard. And when I was trying to drive this ambition and growth, it pissed them off. And I think that was really fair. Yeah. And it's made me learn a lot about managing people. And now, hopefully, I'm a better manager, but I know it's not my strength.
How long did it take you in the role to start figuring that out? Or was it something that happened pretty quickly?
Definitely going to say too long.
Yeah.
Not quite sure how long that was.
Ballpark figure. Doesn't have to be exact.
I want to say 9 to 12 months.
Yeah, okay. All right. So a decent amount.
Yeah, definitely a decent amount. And I remember it kind of became clear to me. I knew there was a bit of friction, but we did that employee net promoter score survey, and I got the results. Yeah. It was very confronting.
Yeah.
And deservedly so. And I actually think I now love getting employee net promoter scores. People
feedback is a gift, right?
Is a gift. It's such a gift. I wish I'd done more of it to get more of this feedback.
Yeah.
So that I could have. It's not. I don't want to blame not getting the score for not picking it up earlier. That's my fault. Yeah. I should have been more alert to these things. But getting it for me was a trigger, and I hope it could help others.
So, how did you apply a different style of leadership or management following that 9 to 12 months point? You were there for what, 3-ish years?
Yeah. So there's a structure that a specialist called Russ Laraway applies. Okay. So if you can Google him, he's a friend. I think he worked with Kim Scott, Radical Candor of that world.
Right. Okay.
And the philosophy was around life stories. So actually, anyone that works with you, it's getting to know them, but deeper than, what do you want to do? What's your aspirations? What's your job? But actually starting earlier on in their career, spend an hour or two with everyone that works directly for you and learn the life story that brought them to this position. So you say you're ambitious. Actually, why are you ambitious? What is it you want? Is it because you want to, earn money because you want to protect your family, or you want to go on activities? And actually, when you get that level deeper, you understand the motivations, and that everyone has different motivations. There are similarities and themes, but everyone's motivations are different, and therefore you can tailor your relationship to them. Yeah. It also has made me a bit apprehensive. I go to a lot of these management sessions, feedback sessions, training sessions of how to look after teams, and there are some, big philosophies that apply to doing it. But I actually think a lot of it comes down to know all the members of your team, all the people report to you, and what do they individually want? Yeah. And then make sure that you're tailoring it. Trying to apply philosophies to the whole team can work, but it's not going to be as good as really understanding and knowing your team well.
So that does sound great, but it does sound time consuming as well. So when you're smashed in the weeds and your workload's just pounding you, and plus the board pressure, all that kind of stuff, how do you practically implement something like that? Because it sounds great, but Like there's the realities too.
I think that's a great question. For me, I try and do it for every time someone joins. The first thing I do. They've got like 2 weeks. I tell them when they join, this is going to happen. They've got a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And then we'll do, it could be 1-2 hours, sit down in a cafe and do that conversation. Sure. And hopefully every 1 to 2 years, repeat the conversation to see what's changed in their life, see if it still holds.
Yeah.
But I'd actually turn around and say the cost of not doing it is higher. I think there's the analogy, like you've got a fence in your garden, it's a wooden fence. You can spend $100 every few years kind of putting that layer of, Ronsil or whatever that oil is, or you can leave it. And you don't, you save putting that effort in, but after a while that fence is going to rot, you lose your fence. But you put the little bit of effort in, I know it's annoying and a lot of other things to do, you then got a fence for 30 years.
Yeah, it's a good metaphor.
Not mine, I stole it from someone else.
Right. It can be yours. And so what prompted the move to Australia the second time then, after spending some time in Singapore? Why didn't you stay?
Yeah, so we had a daughter in Singapore.
Okay. Cool.
And while we loved Singapore, we didn't think it's where we wanted to raise a family. We wanted kind of the big outdoors of Australia, and the beaches and the kind of the lifestyle that is afforded in Australia. Yep. Singapore is great, just wasn't our style.
Sure. Fine. So the big open spaces of Sydney.
Exactly.
But you got the beaches.
So I started looking for jobs in Australia.
Yep.
And I got really lucky when I came across Qualtrics.
Yeah.
And they were a tech company. They're a SaaS company. They're doing really great things. They're expanding into APAC. And I knew I always wanted to get into tech, and I kept falling into mining and energy.
Yeah.
And they offered me a role as effectively finance person number one. It was called head of finance.
Yeah.
But the job was to build out the team.
Cool.
And I feel they took a bit of a bet on me. It was a bit of a gamble. It was like unknown commodity, never done SaaS.
Yep.
Didn't really, have all the things on the resume to tick the boxes. But I think it worked out well for me. I know it worked out well for me. I hope it worked out well for them. I did 5 years, I think, growing the team. 20, 25.
Yep.
And I learned about the software industry, and I think the software industry is brilliant.
Yeah.
I think SaaS is brilliant.
Was it everything you hoped it would be? Like you're building it up in your head for 15 years or so? What was that like? You must have been thrilled.
Honestly, it was everything. I built it up to be and more.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
I realized. I think I knew I'd find the topic interesting. Software, tech. So that's the bit I built up in my head. The surprise for me is there's a special culture.
Yeah.
In the software world, and I joined at what I think was a little bit of a golden era between the end of 2017 and 2023, where we went through the heights of COVID and really high growth in the industry.
Do you think that's SaaS specific or high growth startup scale up specific? Do you think it's more tech?
I think that's a really great question. I think tech it's most common in. I don't want to say that it's outside of all companies that are high growth. I think high growth has a lot of these things, but I also see a lot of high growth companies that are really successful that don't necessarily have a great culture.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
And I'm not advocating for this. I love the fact that companies I've worked for have a great culture, but it's actually, I think it's one of those truths that I don't really want to say is you don't have to have a great culture to be successful.
Yeah.
And I find more in tech, though, the culture is expected to be great, and it's one of the reasons people are attracted to it. And I think it's why tech companies are able to command the ability to get really high-performing individuals.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And so how did you find the first few months? Because it's a very different environment going from a mining business to a SaaS business. So that just style of work and style of accounting, Was it harder than anticipated? Was it easier? What was that transition of the actual technical work?
So what became clear is that working for a large multinational corporate like Anglo-American, there was a lot of focus on kind of the technical accounting, getting it exactly right.
Sure.
But working for the tech company, it was really important. It was actually kind of the business principles. Let's be successful as a business. Are we spending our money really well? So you always have a lot less of it. You might not be making a profit, or you might be making a small profit.
Sure.
So always thinking about the business principles first. And I really appreciated that from what had been much more kind of technical accounting focus to really focus on let's make this business really successful.
Yep.
And as a result, less feeling like a cog in a machine, but feeling like I've got to come up with some ideas, decisions just to make us a better business.
Yeah. Nice. And so that initial period, because you said the first finance person. So where do you start? Because are you building out a team immediately, or are you just doing everything? Or what do you do first?
So really fortunate to have some support from the US.
Okay, yeah,
right. Which gave me that moment to find my feet. Interestingly, taking the guidance from the US, we focused on getting the accounts receivable team in, because we were a sales-based organization. Accounts receivable is the primary thing we wanted to do. Actually, I'd probably do things slightly differently and go think more about the accounting side, make sure that we're really stable with the numbers that we're showing and presenting, then start thinking, because accountants actually have this ability to do a lot of specialisms. And they know AP, they know AR, they can lean into FP&A. But then once you get into specialisms, people in specialisms tend to focus on their speciality. Sure. So someone in AR would very much, maybe they can do, kind of in the AP space, but in that transactional activity, that's where they would operate. And so working, getting an accounting role as a starting point would be my first step. And then really after that, it's just we started to build quite quickly to make sure that we're able to deal with the capacity of Qualtrics' incredibly fast growth. I want to say it grew 40% year on year for 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. It's significant. So what does that mean from a headcount or revenue figures? Anything you're able to share?
Yeah, so in the APAC region, we started with about somewhere between 50 and 100 people when I joined. And after 5 years, I think it was around 550 to 600.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that is significant.
And we just entered Singapore and Japan when I joined.
Okay.
But when I left, I think we were in 12 countries.
Okay. Wow. Right. So what does that mean from the maturity of the work that you're doing? Because early days, it's just like grind and get the work done and just keep moving forward, right? But in terms of the complexity of the work and the compliance work, how did that change?
It's always getting harder, and there's always more of it. And I find every time you move into another country, it adds just that extra layer of complexity, which you can't predict or you can't expect. I do. So I'm always a bit apprehensive when people say, let's, put headcount in new countries. Like, are we sure we're going to do that? Is that absolutely the right decision for us? And I want to have that conversation. I do think one of the mistakes I probably made in finance earlier on in my career is thinking about the operational consequences, things before the business benefits. Actually, sometimes we just need to lean in, take a risk because we know it's going to be good for the business. We'll make more money from it. And then we can kind of sort out the operational pieces in the background, respond to. I know finance teams historically don't like that. You want to be on the front foot and dealing with things in a risk-averse way, but the priority has got to be generating revenue and profit for the business. And you can always solve the other pieces after, just to make sure you're ticking your, dotting your I's and crossing your T's.
No, fair enough. And so did the business IPO while you were there, or went through the process while you were there?
So when I joined, they started a dual track process. So dual track is where you're trying to sell the business and you're trying to list it at the same time. The day before the listing, actually, they were sold to SAP.
So does that mean that all the work up to that point is kind of useless, or what happens there?
It doesn't mean it's useless. but it's not as useful.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
the IPO stuff kind of gets put on the back burner. But
Yeah.
amazingly, I want to say 18 months later, SAP decided to still go and list Qualtrics
Okay. Yeah,
as a
right.
standalone business. So I actually listed our stock on the NASDAQ.
Yeah, right.
And it was a really positive story. I think we listed at 8 billion, and then we got to the heights of COVID, and I think we reached 40 odd billion
Okay, wow.
through the bubble mayhem that was COVID.
Yeah, right. And so you were involved with both processes for getting everything together for the IPO?
Not for the first one. For the second
Okay.
one, I had involvement in certain aspects and certain elements.
Yep. Okay.
And ultimately, they were taken private again. Actually, it was just after I left, but they went private, sold to SAP, then it went public, and then it went private again, all in the space of about 6 years.
Yeah, right. So given that you might have been able to lean upon the process that the people before you did for the first IPO, did you take anything specific from that to apply it the second time around?
So because I wasn't involved in the first IPO process, I was more I was there by the sides. I couldn't see it, but I know there was a lot of learning, and we felt a lot more prepared the second time around. There was also an element, the first time this was done confidentially. So a lot of people didn't know what was going on. And the second time, the announcement was made, and it was actually very public. Therefore, actually doing it publicly and transparently made it a lot easier. Okay. And I'm a big fan in hyper transparency. Basically, just be as open and transparent as you can. And if you're not sure, then probably still go and be transparent. Unless it's personal information or private information to individuals. I think it's generally worth sharing, and you get rewarded by that. People pay it back to you, but you share something with them, they end up sharing more stuff with you, and rising tides and all that.
Yeah, for sure. Was it a difficult decision to move on?
So for me, I was actually made redundant from Qualtrics.
Oh, right. Okay. Sure.
So in that regard, no.
No. Yeah. And so how did the role with Octopus Deploy come up?
So basically, I started looking for roles. The timing was fortunate. I started looking for roles then, but I'd been looking probably for the 6 months beforehand.
Sure.
With Qualtrics, I led the APAC arm, and I knew for my career I wanted to lead finance for the whole group. So I really needed to work for an Aussie company.
Yeah.
And so, met with lots of companies and did lots of interviews. And the opportunity with Octopus Deploy came along where I got to, lead finance for the group.
Yeah, right.
And it's a company that really epitomizes everything that you expect of tech from a culture perspective, from a growth perspective.
Yeah, cool.
I am incredibly fortunate with the people I work with. They're just really fabulous people. And you asked the question with, these things, what you expect. Again, Octopus Deploy's kind of really outdone it and overachieved from that regard for me, which has been really fun.
So what does the business do? What is the day-to-day, like the core operations?
Sure. So we are a software as a service company that sells continuous delivery. Okay. And if you're in the software industry, we're effectively a specialist part of software development that helps customers that develop software get their software from where it is to the end product, if you will. So it could be that you have MRI machines, and those MRI machines need updating. Could be car washes, and you need your car washes updated every couple of weeks to, make sure they're as efficient and effective as possible in dealing with, this software update or this software update. Basically anything that needs to orchestrate software to go from one place to the other. Yeah,
right. And so when you did join, so you were group finance lead, or what was the role that you were coming into?
So it was VP finance. So I report to the CEO leading finance. As I've been there, the role's grown as it does with software companies, and they added on legal and IT and compliance and office management and all these different pieces. And we've had, during our time, we've always been a profitable company, which has been pretty special as well in the software industry. But we decided about 2 years ago, possibly 2 years ago today. So I'm just looking at the calendar. My God. We acquired a company called CodeFresh.
Okay.
And when we did that, we did a capital raise to raise the funds to buy the company.
Yep. What was that like, that period? Because they're always stressful and hard work and a all-in type of thing. How was that?
Yeah, so it's one of those I mentioned at the beginning. I'm good tired.
Yeah.
I'm happy tired.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how that felt. Running an acquisition of a company and all the complexities that come out of nowhere, and working with the legal and the banks and the accountants and all the different types of due diligence. They were really hard, long hours, weird hours, meeting and at the same time raising capital, working with a lot of VCs to raise the funding.
Yep.
There was a lot going on in a short period of time, but it was so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if any people have the chance to be involved with it, get involved with these things.
Yeah, cool. And so where's the business at the minute? What sort of projects, where are things tracking over the next 12, 18 months for the business?
Yeah, so it's a great story, really proud of it. We're continuing to focus on just solid growth. We're not trying to build lots of new products and kind of go in lots of different directions. We're really focusing on being the best company on earth at continuous delivery. Making sure that we just have one thing that we are specialist in, and everyone knows that if you want to have some software delivered, come talk to us. Deploy.
Yeah, and you're on that track?
It feels like it, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, nice. And how's the team set up at the minute? Is it all local, or are you working with a US team, other international businesses, or international sites as well?
So while we are, I'd say our heart is in Brisbane, because that's where our founder started the company. That's where he lives. We are a fully remote company. So there's probably this natural group in Brisbane. But beyond that, we have people all over the world. And I'm going to get this wrong. I think we're in about 20 to 25 countries.
As in the staff or the product?
Yeah, staff's in 20 to 25 countries. I think our product's in well over 100 countries. The finance team, I want to say all East Coast Australia, and one individual in Israel. So the company CodeFresh that we acquired had a heavy presence in Israel, and so there was a finance team in Israel.
How do you manage expectations and accountability with a remote team like
that? So this goes a little bit into the question of, do you have people come to the office or do you work remotely?
Yeah.
My theory or philosophy is it actually doesn't matter. What matters is the culture that surrounds it. If you have a culture of a company where people want to work remotely, telling them to come into the office, you're going to be bringing in the wrong people. And they're the people that don't want to be there, and they're going to fight the system and not be happy about it. And equally, if you have people that join the company because they want to work from an office, because they enjoy the bits of culture that come with that, the meals, the games, the table tennis, sitting together, everyone else is remote, they're going to feel lonely and left out.
Sure.
So I think it's actually the culture is the really crucial piece there. Well, what is the culture of the company, and being really clear and upfront when you're hiring and when you're building the company. In Octopus Deploy, from day one, from 2014 when the company was established, it was remote first, which is very rare. From that I know it's been in vogue since COVID, but I feel my founder was very much a visionary in that regard. Then once you've got people, I think you need to hire people and trust them. It's very output orientated. I know we talk a lot about meritocracies, but you have to really not just say it, but believe that and know that it's an output orientated business, and you'll know really quickly if it's working.
What about early stage career staff though, that do learn from just seeing someone else make a mistake or something else going on around them? Do you miss that?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, and I think that is fascinating. I think I think it becomes a little bit more role-based. Yeah. So I think teams that are involved in sales, like business development representatives, sales development reps, I think having 6 of them in a room together where they've got the job of doing the cold calling, reaching out, so you can listen to each other.
Yeah.
I think it's really important. Right? Yeah. I think there are other roles where generally, actually, quite a lot of the time, finance specifically, individual contributor work's really important. Being heads down, kind of in your spreadsheets and your ERP, actually having space to focus is fine. But as a leader, you need to make sure the teams have the time together in group chats, conversations to be able to achieve what they want.
Yeah.
I think from what you're saying, what I'm more concerned about is AI.
Yeah, right.
Because AI chips away a lot at the more junior roles. And when we say, people say, well, we don't need to hire this many analysts because we've now got AI to do the analyst work. Well, those analysts that you're not hiring were going to become the future managers, heads of finance, CFOs, CEOs, board members.
Yep.
And if they're not getting those jobs at a junior level, it's going to be really hard for them to learn the kind of the basic skills. Yep. And I'm worried about where we're going to be in 15 years or 10 years because we did so little hiring as a society today because of AI.
But is that the case that they just don't need to learn those skills anymore? Like, say, previously when you were doing hand calculations, you had to do long division or you had to do all that sort of stuff, but you don't need to know that anymore, right? Is it just a skill that maybe you don't need to know because the software or AI tells you what the answer is?
It's another really good question. I think I've got a 9-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son, and my 9-year-old daughter is actually doing multiplication and division at the moment, working her way through that.
Yep.
And I realize even with the presence of calculators, she needs to understand the concepts of multiplication and division, even though she can use a calculator, because that's going to fundamentally make her think, one sec, if the business is tripling in size, what does that mean?
Yeah. Sure.
And therefore you get to the other concepts of, compounding is a really big concept in the high growth and SaaS industries.
Yeah.
So I think those philosophies are really important. I think there is effort saving, but we still need to be investing in junior staff because they are the leaders of the future.
Yeah, no, it's fair. And before we come back to the AI stuff in a second, I want to hear about the tech CFO community you've built. So I've seen it online, but I don't know about it.
It's so much fun. So when I came to Australia the second time, about 6 years ago, I was really struggling. I was leading finance, but in reality, I had no experience of leading finance or what that meant.
Yeah.
And I reached out to Damien Singh, so the ex-CFO of Canva. Who was kind of my network. I said, do you know anyone? And he introduced me to this really cool Slack group, which has about 75 or 100 senior finance people in it that kind of had similar problems to me. And we've been talking, and occasionally we get together for a bite to eat or a pint, and they're all delightful, and they're all so wise, and they know so much. And I realized every time I met with them, I just learned so much. And every time I had a problem, I'd type it into this Slack group. It was almost like Gemini for me. I'd type it in, and one of them would spit out the answer for me. It was brilliant. It was my cheat. About a year ago, I realized that there's so much knowledge here. What if we can professionalize this group? And basically, I started organizing quarterly meetups. I think we've now just done our fourth, where we sit down for about 5 hours.
5 hours?
5 hours. It's always face-to-face. Members of the community are a CFO, or they can report to a CFO in a sufficiently large organization. So like really senior kind of people in tech. And so generally the first session's been about AI. Second session's been on breakout groups. Third session's been it varies per meeting. And then the fourth session, we have someone come and answer questions. We had Mina, who was the ex-CEO of Difference. We had Justin, I can't remember his surname, from one of the founding partners of EVP. We had Beck Donnelly, SVP for people at Ignition. And these people, they know so much, and they tell us what it's like to work with CFOs, what they want from CFOs, what CFOs have undelivered, how we can be better. And I think we're now we have about 30 or 40 people attend the last session.
Okay.
I think about
Yeah.
30-ish in Sydney. And because we've got enough people in Melbourne now, we're able to get a room and space in Melbourne
Very
for those
cool.
people to join there, and they joined us over the Zoom.
Yeah, right. So what has that group specifically done for you in your own professional development and learning?
Honestly, I wouldn't be where I am without them.
Yeah.
So, going to plug a few people. Alexi, I
Friend
mean,
of the pod?
people know I'm staying maybe of eucalyptus, but I want to say Alexi of Canva, Alexi of Koala,
Wow, yeah.
his most recent, venture capital fund. Alexi
Same
has done a
interest.
lot.
Yeah.
Really impressive. He just has huge amounts of information that he's been able to share. Ben Watty-Watt, who I believe
Yeah.
is on this
Friend of the
show.
pod.
Again, I want to say, the SVP from Immutable, but again, he's got an amazing track record. He's worked for so many places. He's got so much
Yeah.
knowledge and experience.
Yeah.
And there are so many of these people. I've just picked a couple. There are so many of them that have such deep knowledge. But also, any scenario I have, someone in that room has been through it.
Yeah.
I want to expand into Brazil. I go and talk to Ala, who is currently the CFO of All Eats and was the SVP Finance for Campaign Monitor.
Yeah.
She's done that. I want to meet someone who's been into India. I know someone who's done that as well. They've
Yep.
all been through these, and actually, they cut out 80% of the work that we have to do because they've got this experience. And
Yep.
the value of having a network around you is so powerful.
Yeah. I agree. And so, is it all Sydney based, or if this is Melbourne as well? If there's people in other cities that want to be involved or want to reach out, who do they reach out to you? Do they try and make their own franchise? How do they do it?
So, if people want to set up their own groups, I would love that. The
Yeah.
more these groups and networks and these communities, the better we are as a group.
Yeah.
The CFO functions for tech companies, we will do better. I do have people now that reach out to me every few days to be part of the group. And we're trying. Pardon? Well, so there actually was a wait list. We had to reject a couple of people.
Okay, right.
This quarter. We've got the challenge. We need to keep the group quite small that we can have good conversations.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of a wait list in Sydney. But Melbourne, we're growing, and I'm hoping the next place is going to be Brisbane.
Okay, cool.
To join us, and
Nice.
if we get enough people in Brisbane, I'll rent some more office space, and we'll get a Zoom set up so you can join us.
Yeah, nice. Well, on that, with all these brilliant tech finance minds, what has been the massive takeaway for AI and where that's tracking and what you should be taking to market?
It is so complicated. It is so complicated. So actually, one is one that we talked about earlier, which is around the risk that it has to our industry in about 10 years if we're not bringing in enough people at a junior level.
Yeah.
That makes us a bit anxious.
Sure.
For me, I'm also seeing there's an expectation to be able to use AI, but we don't yet trust it.
Right.
And the expectations we have of AI are higher than we'd have of a human. And it's kind of like autonomous cars.
Sure.
They're probably actually better than people today. But if you hear about one accident with an autonomous car, it's like, no, the government is not going to approve it until you get a higher level than human level of safety. And the same I find is in similar jobs to finance if you're using AI. I don't think the board will be comfortable with me getting it wrong and saying, oh, well, it was the AI, they misread the number.
Yeah.
But there is actually more sympathy if humans make those mistakes.
Sure.
And so there's that social paradigm of, are we treating AI like humans?
Yeah.
What are the expectations of it? But I think the opportunity is huge. We just haven't quite worked out what it is yet. I'm going to do a plug for Warwick Donaldson, head of finance at Sophie.
Yeah,
He's done some great experiments. He comes to our community, and I described him, fortunately I say this to his face as well, he's a mad scientist of finance. And he's just playing with all these tools and all these toys to work out the most effective and efficient way to go to grow his finance function.
You should figure out exactly the optimized stack and then just monetize it, sending it out as like a guide.
Warwick, if you're listening.
Well, I think that's as good of a spot as any to finish up, Sammy, but you've been fantastic. I've really enjoyed this. I think your approach to working in the direction that you want to go career-wise and making it into tech is fantastic, and the whole approach to community for L&D is fantastic. Hopefully the listeners agree and take a lot of value out of it, so appreciate your time.
I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, Tom. It's been great.
Nice. If anyone's got any questions, or if anyone wants to reach out, are you happy to field any questions?
I'd love to, yeah.
What would be the best way to reach out?
Reach out to me on LinkedIn. And to be honest with you, whatever question, I'm probably going to forward it to the CFO group, take their answers and pretend they were my own.
I'll put the links in all the show notes when we go out, but thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks very much, Tom.
No worries. Thanks for listening to the CFO Track. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with a friend. I'll see you next time.